Do you believe in accountable love? Welcome to Accountable Love, home of the love snobs, where love is a group journey. My name's Aziz.
I'm Jerry.
And today we'll be talking about, are you ready to commit? We are all searching for stability. We are all looking for absolutes in humanity, but there are no absolutes. There's only accountable love, a love that says when you pick a partner and friend, they will show up with their daily best and you will give them your all as well. We all deserve love at its highest form, so the love snobs are here to tell you, you deserve everything. You deserve a high crack. Love snobs, love snobs, love snobs. Now, recently, a person that we've been working with, through our relationship sessions, our online relationship sessions, reached out to us and asked us to write a list of things that, questions you can ask a person that you're really trying to get to know, trying to get to meet, whether it's a first date, whether you knew them, but, before you really ready to commit, to make sure, they're serious. Mm-hmm. And she said she looked up a bunch of things, but she said it was the typical things that she ran into. And she said, since we tend to think outside the box, and we supported her and helped her to think outside the box to build strong relationships. She said, she reached out to us and said, it's important for us to have a list out there because, other people need to start thinking outside the box. And she really wanted to understand how to get started back up and building strong and healthy relationships. So we comprise the list, So today podcast, we're going to really talk about that list. We're going to ask each other questions and go over the questions that we came up with and, give y'all an example of how it would look to actually take this. I don't know if it's a quiz.
No, it's more like it comes across like an interview, but it's really, a set of questions that you should be asking yourself and asking the person that you really want to get to know. I know based on my experiences, it's really easy to connect on past pain in relationships.
Definitely.
We're sitting across from each other trading war stories. And this is a better way to be more progressive and really, connect with somebody that is really take the time to connect with somebody that makes sense.
Definitely.
Instead of just going off of the pain and, whatever the drama that happened in your past relationships.
Definitely. We're going to post them on the website. So, just, I guess, when you have somebody that you're interested in or, somebody that you're already with and your relationship probably is not going the best, you can start off by, logging into AccountableLove.com and actually pull up these questions and start, having a dialogue. Maybe I can take the quiz together and see how it, it fits. But the first question is, what is your reaction when you feel that you're being judged inappropriately?
Well, my first thing is to kind of figure out, initially when you think of judge, like judge is usually could be a trigger word, right? So when you think of being judged poorly, or being judged out of context,
Definitely.
You tend to get defensive. But I learned to ask questions. So when I'm being judged and it doesn't seem like it fits appropriately, I start to ask the question. So I don't really try to get too caught up in the emotions of it. I'm kind of wanting to know why you're saying what you're saying, and then so we can have the discussion. So either A, I could correct it, or maybe B, they're right.
Definitely.
And if they are right, and if I don't like to be who they say I am, then I need to fix it.
Definitely. I tend to want to understand if something is accurate. So I want to understand how did they come to that judgment? How did they, what were the things I did was the things that I displayed? Because I think if I'm out with somebody, obviously their opinion means something. So I want to value it. I think that it's important to really listen and see that person's perspective. And, I tend to read intentions, so I don't think they're coming from a malicious place naturally. Mm-hmm. I just think they're being honest about their view of me, and we should have a discussion. But based on the dialogue, we'll come to the truth, because honesty is my honesty and their honesty will lead us to the truth. It leads us to a discussion that leads to the truth. So I think it's important. I'm a person that's believe that you should judge and you should have place judgments, because those are the things that allow you to reevaluate things that you might not necessarily like about yourself, or to be comfortable in your skin and honor the things but I think it's more important to see if the judgment is accurate or not. And if you feel like you're being judged unfairly, then I think that you need to now have the dialogue and see if it actually fits. So I would agree with you on that.
Clear your thought.
Go ahead.
Is conflict a sign we need to talk or walk away? So I believe that conflict is a sign that we need to talk. I've never been afraid of conflict. I think that although that I believe is one of my best attributes, I think a lot of people didn't like that about me. But I've learned to find people that believed in the same thing. So I think that conflict just leads us to have a conversation about what's going on so that we can be on the same page. So I believe in it. I don't think that you can run from it if both people are being themselves.
Definitely. I see conflict typically, of course it means I'm going to talk, but I see that as when watching TV, a lot of people just walk away from the conflict
they think
all
that
the time, and they say one thing and walk away, or they'll say whatever and walk away, and that's what they show a lot of people that you're supposed to do during conflict, or but the first thing it means to me is a conflict means that we have an issue. So therefore, the first thing I want to do with somebody that I'm romantically involved with is solve the issue.
Yeah.
So obviously it means that we need to communicate. And I don't run from conflict, obviously. I like to meet it head on. And it does get difficult when you are repeating yourself over and over again with that person. Like the more years you have in common, the harder it becomes to communicate, especially when you're repeating the same things over and over again. I can see why a person would shut down. But overall, it does mean it's time to talk. And when you're willing to talk, you're willing to save your relationship. So I think anybody that looks at conflict and they start a discussion through the conflict, they're willing partners. I think anybody who walks away is really not a willing partner anymore, because I've walked away from conflicts, and that's because I haven't been a willing participant anymore. I didn't want to be in that relationship anymore, which was a clear sign. So I would think it means to talk, but when the conflict is something that obviously you don't want to enact or deal with, I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, like you shouldn't really use that opportunity to be the bigger person. Definitely. I think a lot of people.
No, I don't think that's being the bigger person.
Agreed,
I think being
the bigger
either,
person but I'm just going based on typical person. They think by walking away you're being the bigger person. So definitely. Being the bigger person in that situation will cost you your relationship, because even though you guys may kind of sweep it under the rug, that issue is going to come up
quote
in a different
unquote bigger person.
Quote unquote bigger person.
Definitely.
That issue is going to come out in other ways and become a bigger issue later on.
Definitely. Even if you need time to gather your thoughts, you need to communicate that. So it is still a time to communicate, no matter how much you really feel about that. But I think that question is important to really get to know, where a person stands whenever y'all come in conflict, because that's really that's one of the judges of whether you're going to last a long time or not, your ability to deal with conflict. So I think that's why that question is important. The next question is, is I don't know good enough is I don't know a good enough answer, excuse me.
No.
Yeah,
that's not a good enough answer. If you don't know, you need to take the time to figure it out. I think, sometimes, people don't typically think of certain things, or they're not always thinking of certain things. And if somebody asks you a question that you don't have the answer to, you can say, I don't have the answer right now, but I'll think about it and get back to you. Like, you should never leave it open-ended. I think that I don't know gets you nowhere. So it doesn't really help you get to know the other person. It doesn't help a person get to know you. So everyone, whether they want to admit it or not, knows why they do what they do. So I think that I don't know is a cop-out.
Definitely. I think I don't know shows a lack of effort. It shows it does show that the person is not willing to find answers. And I think it connects with the second question. It's one of those things that you're able to, unconsciously see that the person is not a teammate. They, they're individuals, and they want to stick to what goes on in their head and not willing to put what they believe to the table. So I don't know is typically a cop-out. And like we say in our household, I don't know is a curse. Well, not our household, but our village. I don't know is a curse. So, with the internet age, we have nothing but information. If somebody, do you know what this pot is? I don't know what a pot is, but I'm going to assist you in finding the pot, or maybe it's here, or show some support. It's, you can still use I don't know, but it has to be followed up with some form of answer, some form of action going forward. So I think it's important to see that person's a participant. and it's going to be somebody in your life that's going to actually put forth effort to actually, solve problems with you. So I think that's why that's important.
What does a successful relationship look like?
So that's a question that, it varies from person to person. And I would definitely believe a successful relationship is a relationship that has a foundation of love, which is dedication, devotion, honesty, and trust. So accountable love is the foundation of a healthy relationship. But, to move forward, that's just the foundation of your house. You got to actually have bricks, and you got to actually have bricks to build the house. You got to actually decorate. You got to actually have other things. So when it comes to I think being connected sexually is a very important thing. You don't have to have sex every day, but you have to make sure that y'all on the same page when it comes to being spiritual and having sex. I think finances. I think it's important to not just, be driven by money, but when you actually have money, being able to make money work for you where it doesn't strain your relationship, where you can find ways to, manage your money together and, obviously understand the person's strengths and weaknesses. So if, you're better with money, then you handle the money, and I should have full confidence that you're putting it in the right place and you're doing the right thing, but being able to have the discussion about money, how you raise your kids, what kind of, do you want children? Do you not want children? I think those things are, that would decide a successful relationship. So I think your ability to not only live in love or search for love or build love as a team, as a unit, but the ability to communicate everything, any and everything, to be transparent, and anything that comes to mind, basically say what you have to say moving forward. So I think that deals with a successful relationship. It's about how you use the years, not about accumulating the years. I would say.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, but I would also like to add that, a successful relationship is also two people showing up every day.
Definitely.
Two people wanting to work on it every day. Two people that believe that, we may have a conflict in this area, but we're going to work toward each other so that we can be on the other side of things together. You know what I mean? And even if you don't end up on the other side of things together in a romantic partnership, but you guys still have that solid foundation to make sure that you guys are making the best choice for each other.
Definitely.
And I think that, like you said, transparency is a big deal. And, I used to always say that, I want all these other things and sex comes last. But you're right. Sex is one of those things that when you are in love with somebody and you are building with somebody, you want to have that passion toward them. Definitely. So although it's not something that I lead with, it's something that is still wanted. You want to be physically attracted to them. You want to be spiritually attracted to them, mentally attracted to them. So it all comes together. But I do think that a successful relationship for us, I believe a successful relationship is quality over quantity.
Definitely.
And it's basically two people that agree to show up every day.
Yeah, let me add to that. I do also believe a successful relationship means making that person the top priority, the number one priority, and being ready to build your life around that person. So when you have kids, you don't forget about that person. When you get promotions, you don't forget about that person. When if you get a promotion that maybe, a success for you, but it may move your family. You might have to make tough decisions. And I think the decision should always be the priority of your relationship and your partner. So I do believe those things, your ability to make your partner the number one priority. I think that's very important, and keeping them the number one priority through a lifetime. So I think that's also something that's important. But, with that question, it allows you to see obviously where the person's at.
Yeah, because I think that, you hear a lot of people say that a successful relationship is, being married for 25 years.
Definitely.
Like they measure it with numbers, or they measure what years.
They measure it with how much hardships they
the hardship that they encountered.
Yeah.
They measure it with, I guess those are the two major things.
Not really the hardships they encountered, but the hardships they created and got over.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to experience hardships, and I do think that it does make you stronger if it's something that life created. But when you create it as an individual, then I think those things destroy the relationship.
Yeah, overcoming those hard times are.
I think that may restart the relationship, but it doesn't. Your relationship it's hard to get your relationship back on track based on that. Like what you could have been is a little tainted because you always have that in the back of your head that did occur. So it's it's just bruising your relationship. So I think a lot of people do go that route.
But you made a good point by bringing up the kids, because a lot of people also measure their relationship by having the family.
Definitely.
So your kids, you raise them, they go on with life. But what about the relationship that you guys have? It's really important to keep that, understand it, nurture it, and you guys together will come together to raise the children. But you still need to make sure that you're working toward each other and making sure that you are taking care of each other.
Definitely, and there's different forms of family. So if you're not working as a partnership, then I think you need to show your children what life truly is. Like,
yeah.
If you're not working as a partnership, add 2 other people into your life. I mean, separate, get new partners, and still show that they're a priority in your life based on the fact that y'all separated and y'all added 2 people that actually can coexist in the new lifestyle y'all created, and put your kids, make your kids a priority as well. So I think there's just so many mature decisions we have to make, and we tend to be traditional without really thinking about the effects it has on our kids versus teaching them, like, though we signed on a partnership, things, maybe things aren't the best that they need to be, and we're not bringing the best out of each other, and we're not the best for y'all as a couple, so we can be better for y'all if we separate. And sometimes looking in the mirror and teaching that lesson. So, I think that it's really important to really know what is the success of a successful relationship to that person. So you can see if y'all liking that, y'all like-minded, and y'all same-hearted on that level, because that's big. A person's belief in relationships. And then the next question is, what holds a relationship together, and are you able to honor those things? So I think we touched on that in one push in the fourth question, what's a successful relationship? So it's just saying independently what will be a successful relationship. When it comes to 5, it's like it's more of a joint thing.
Yeah.
We already put ourselves together and put ourselves in positions, and we already talked about what each person likes and don't like, and things that we are going to compromise and things we are unwilling to compromise. And then we sign a contract to be a commitment. So based on that contract, because a lot of people look from the outside looking in, like there are people that sign on together to be swingers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then when we look at it, one person
like,
really doesn't
how
want to
could
swing
you?
no more. And then it's like we look at that person, the other person is the bad guy because they want to continue to do it. But that's the relationship they signed on for. Like there's certain times where you signed on to be, maybe the male signed on to be a stay-at-home dad. And then the woman is making the most money and making and making ends meet. And a lot of men look at that man as not being a man because he's not financially taking care of a woman. But if the woman is able to take care of the man financially, he's able to take care of the house and the children. I think, why is that a diminished role based on the fact that, he's choosing that route? So I think like those are the things that a lot of people, when it comes to tradition, people don't pay attention to. But it is important to say what brought your relationship together, what allowed y'all to be a couple, while y'all here, what things do y'all have in common? Because the question number 4 is not about what you have in common, it's what you believe is a successful relationship. Number 5 is based on what would connect the 2 people. What would allow us to maintain a relationship as a team. So we're actually comparing and contrasting our differences and our similarities, and we're seeing what fits and don't fit. Based on that, we're going to see if we can be together.
Well, based on our beliefs, and
definitely
that's number 5 is a great question to kind of dive into, if someone's traditional versus not. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I think that stuff will kind of come out in that question.
I mean, and it's all about like the example we use about being swinger. Being a swinger, can you maintain that for a lifetime?
Yeah.
So why would you sign up for that for a lifetime? So it's just things of that nature. You really got to dig deep and not do things because it's going to benefit your partner, but do things that is going to benefit your partnership.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. There's a big difference. Like your partner can want all kinds of things, but if it's not benefiting the actual relationship and it's not going to benefit both parties involved, then somebody's going to resent the other person. So it's very important to sign a contract with your partner and sign a commitment with your partner that you're willing to honor for a lifetime, because you got to really look at those things, because when you don't want to do it, you still have to have the responsibility of showing up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's important. Go ahead.
So the next question is, what do you believe will never What do you believe will never change about you?
So this is now dealing with, everybody's always saying we forever evolving, we're forever changing. We're not who we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But somehow, like, I run into people all the time that I haven't seen for 10, 15 years. And they always telling me the core things about who I am is the same. Like, you're the same person. And I was, these people I known in elementary, so it would probably be like 30 years now.
Yeah.
But those are the people that, you knew in elementary school. And they still saying, basically, you're a similar person. Like, they still have a fairly good understanding of who you are. Your experience, you're different, had different experiences. There's different things you went through. And somehow there's something that they still could identify with that makes you who you are. Mm-hmm. So the whole changing, things do change, experiences change. But I don't think the core values change.
Yeah.
I think you know who you are at a young age, and you're fighting to maintain that through a lifetime. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a certain component of who you are. Just like we talked about you being a person that was rule regimented, and you established, like, when somebody gave you rules and regulations, you felt the need to establish them and make sure other people established them. Mm-hmm. That's why your father thought you should be a lawyer, anything, or a politician, like something that's dealing with legislation, because they figured that you would be a person that is great in that. And now at your job, you're a supervisor or a director, and you're helping your team, and you're molding a team, and you're a leader. Mm-hmm. So that was in you. Mm-hmm. And that's what everybody possibly can see in you. And I don't care when you probably find somebody that you haven't talked to in 20 years, they still would identify that. Like, that would be a job. I can see you doing that, because they can see it. So I'm saying that was something that was just in you. Same with me. I was very spiritual and very rule regimented in that way, and wanting to basically find things that we all have in common. Like, that's always been my thing. What's the thread that holds everybody together? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's something in me that would never change. My ability to help people, my ability to assist people when it comes to relating. I always find that common thread. Like, what is the common denominator? I don't care about the 27 differences. What actually holds us together? What's the glue that holds us together? While everybody else is talking about how different they are, I want to see what makes us the same while we actually sitting in this room together trying to make something work. So that's always been my thing. That would never change.
Well, you're funny. It's funny. I was like, it is right that, your core doesn't really change. And, growing up, I didn't really identify it as such in certain instances because, I was a fighter, but I was always willing to fight for my friends.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And that, because I was that person, I didn't really look at it as leadership, or I didn't really look at it as me
being a nurturer
or a protector, but essentially that's what I was, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was able to, as I matured, I was able to kind of transition that aggression or the need to fight into, I was able to
fought
transform.
in different ways.
Yeah, I fought in different ways.
Instead of fighting with physical violence, you fought, you started fighting in a more progressive, productive way. You know what I mean? You see something wrong, you make sure you attack it. You make sure that you try to find change and start the discussion. So I think that's important to really identify. And like, it gets deeper, obviously. We don't have a whole podcast to sit here and talk about, a bunch of things that won't change in us. But at the same time, I know the core, and that's examples of what we are talking about when you're talking about somebody, because you have to understand what a person's not willing to change. Mm-hmm. Because if that annoys you, you probably don't need to be with the person long term. Well, so that would be a question that allows you to understand that the core of this person will not change. You will have to accept this about this person no matter what. And are you willing to do that? Yeah. So that's really
being honest about it and not thinking you can go in and change that person.
Definitely. That definitely starts the commitment portion of it. So.
Number 7, what would you do? What do you want to give back to the world?
Now, that allows you to see what you're going to be sharing in a relationship, because, your relationship, the man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, or man and a man, however, your relationship functions, I think, or, however y'all are committed. Yeah, however y'all committed. I think that a household is a household, and it's a subculture of the overall culture, right? So if somebody has an ambition to give back, or has an ambition to change the world in some form or fashion, whether it's creating something, whether it's building a business, whether it's you know what I mean, being an activist. You have to understand that also is the core of who the human being is spiritually. So that's not gonna, you know, like, you got to understand that either y'all both on the same page and you're gonna support that person's goal, or y'all got to have goals that aren't conflicting.
Yeah.
Because what you bring into the world is it does deal with self-esteem and self-worth, and it's a big part of who a person is. So if they feel stifled, or you're committed to somebody that feels stifled based on what you're going to bring to the world, I can guarantee that no matter how much y'all supposedly get along, that's going to be a hindrance. That's going to hurt your relationship, and you're going to resent them, or y'all going to feel stifled. So I think that's an important, you know, part of who you are. Like, I want to shape relationships. I actually believe that that's the key to, you know, to world peace. So I believe that if we have better relationships and we're able to relate and communicate effectively, and we don't have to go to violence, we're able to resolve issues, and we each have great personal relationships, I think how we deal with people that we're not in personal relationships with will be a lot more effective, because we are happy in our overall, you know, personal lives. And I think our personal lives is the foundation of everything. So that's my belief. That's my plight. That's the thing that I've always been a part of. That's always driven me. So I think that's something I definitely want to give back to the world, to give you an example of how that starts. And I'm not going to probably be with somebody who believes that being a loner, and, you know, everybody has their own opinion, and we shouldn't talk about the opinions, and we shouldn't discuss. You know, I probably wouldn't be around somebody who avoids conflict. I probably wouldn't be around somebody who's to each his own, because I do believe we're all connected in some form of fashion. So we have to find where that connection is.
Well, yeah, I believe in the village mentality as well. So I think that, you know, if you know, most people, they, you know, get married and they kind of go into their own little silo. So I think that, you know, someone that believes that that's the best thing for our relationship would probably not be ideal for me. I would want somebody who believes in community. And I think that that's, you know, really important, and understanding that it does take a village, and that it's beyond us.
Definitely.
And although, like, it shouldn't, now, I don't think that your village should be taking away from your relationship. It should be adding to it, because because everyone agrees, everyone wants to be there. So
that's why it's important to be like-minded and same-hearted. So you're moving in one direction, and you're not in constant conflict. You know, there's a lot of people that are chaotic, and they believe in chaos just because they want to have their own personal, or their own. They want individual.
I mean, I used to be that.
Individual accolades, but at the end of the day, it's what you bring to the world and it's what you bring to people's lives. So you can't start building your relationship and your foundation and bringing kids in this world if you don't know what you want to bring to the world. You get what I'm saying? Because if you're taking from the world, but you're adding children, then you're going to take from their lives as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got to understand, like, what you want to give to the world will affect everything around you. So it's important to understand what your foundation and things you want. And
yeah, like if you want to climb the corporate ladder, understand that that's taking away time from your family.
Definitely.
If you want to be a stay-at-home.
Well, it depends on a corporation.
Well, it depends on a
corporation is a family corporation.
Yeah,
there's things in place that allow you to spend time with your family. But
in
for the most
part, a lot of cases, it's you putting in a ridiculous amount of hours, and you're spending a lot of time away from home. So if that's what you want, then that's something that you should discuss with your partner.
Definitely, you got to think about
if you're dating a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, you have to understand that he or she may be on call, and that they may not be accessible all the time. Is that something that you are okay with? You know what I mean? Like, I think is those things as well. It's who. I think it's really important to figure out who the person and yourself hold near and dear. Like,
definitely, because some people's occupation is what they want to get back to the world.
Exactly. So I'm not working. I'll put in the time when I need to, but I put in the work when I need to. But I want to spend time with my family, so I cut things off. Like, I no longer want to work on a Saturday, or volunteer to work on a Saturday, or I push back on working on a Saturday because I want to. My priorities are different. Definitely. And not that I'm not dedicated at work. It's just that they're not on the first tier of my priorities. Definitely. You know what I mean? Like, I'm dedicated when I'm there, but I'm not working 70 hours a week.
Yeah. So, and it is dealing with priorities. So it would be a priority. And I don't think that's necessarily a job where it's like, that's what I want to give back to the world. So I think like maybe.
Oh, I'm not saving lives. I'm making jewelry.
No. It's not about saving lives. It's about, do you believe that that's what your calling is versus a doctor? They may believe that's their calling.
Yeah.
So if you believe that was your calling, then I would think that's what you would have to. Then your priority would change, though. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, I agree.
It would
well,
shift
yes,
a little bit.
it's not the same. It's not as fulfilling. I mean, we can go on and on about that. The point is that is that you have to really be clear.
She just got a little offended. Oh, my job means nothing. That's not
no. It's not that. But you're right about that. It's not that it doesn't mean anything. It just is not as fulfilling.
It's not your.
And
it's
not my passion. I wouldn't say it's not my passion. It's not my priority. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to my family,
you like your
job. And I enjoy it. I enjoy what I do. But it is what it is.
Definitely.
And I think that it's important to understand who you're dealing with and what they hold as a priority, and where is their employment, the extracurricular activities, what tier of priority that's in as well. I think what level. I think that's really important. I don't think that's discussed enough.
Because
100%. Back in the day when we were seeing each other.
Okay. What, 15?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Okay, no, but
that was really back in the day.
The point is that you like basketball, right? And you play basketball all the time.
All the time.
Had I known that was something that was a top priority, I mean, I have dated you.
Yeah, but you didn't know. What do you mean?
I didn't know. No,
you did know.
No, I thought he did it.
No, I literally told you. I literally
trying
told
to
you.
get to the NBA.
But what did I say? What did I say? Really, I just wanted to play college basketball. I just wanted a scholarship, so my mother didn't have to pay for it. But listen, I did say basketball is the number one priority over everything else until I can't play anymore, and then the priority is going to shift. Did I not say that? That was my motto. Everybody I talked to, I used to always tell them, even when...
I know 18-year-old me doesn't remember that conversation.
Okay, see? It's very vague when it's convenient, but I've always been straight, right?
Yeah.
Have I always been a person that lets you know what you're getting into?
You have.
Okay, so don't sit there and say it was vague. I told everybody that right off the tip. Like, this was my dream. This is what I was going after, and I wasn't committing to anybody that didn't understand that that's what was going on.
So I guess I understood. The problem, I was teasing. The point is
the problem was she was trying to manipulate me when it was convenient. That's what it is, or emotionally blackmail me.
The problem
she has evolved.
The issue is that the thing is that was something that you made a priority. So definitely. Anyone that knew that anyone who dated you or was around you knew that Saturdays there may be games, after school they may be games. Like there was always like a game. There was always something.
I'm always going to be. Yeah, they knew that was a priority. That's definite. Well, the next question: how many sex partners did you have and why? So I think this is something. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
I think this is something a lot of people try to shy away from when their number is a little high. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because, obviously their younger self was a little bit more promiscuous versus their older self is a little ashamed of their younger self. But, I mean, you should wear it if you should understand why you did what you did. You know what I mean? There's so many different reasons. There's psychological reasons. There's traumas and why people did what they did. But it's important to understand why you had that number. You know what I mean? I only had 10 sex partners, and 5 of them were, just miscellaneous. 2 of them I was intoxicated and got put in a bad situation. And 3 of them was people that I knew, hung out with, and, we fooled around. And past that, I decided that, I wasn't going to have sex unless the person was my partner. So after that, everybody's been a partner. So 5 partners have been my other sex partners. So it was a very simple number for me because I wasn't, just running around. I tried the whole run around and slide, it doesn't work for me. It wasn't really my thing because I cherish my body.
I started late, so I had 7, but a handful of them were my boyfriends, and the other set of them were just guys that I was dating for long periods of time, but we really didn't have a commitment. So it wasn't. We were dating each other, and I wasn't dating anybody else, and they weren't dating anybody else, but we were in a long-term situation for a while, and I had a lot of dry humping sessions.
Now, one of them wasn't a dating situation.
Yeah, no, one of them wasn't a dating situation at all. But yeah, I never really, I took a long time to have sex because I really believed that I wanted to be with somebody that I could trust.
Definitely.
So I think that's where it all started out. But the reason why I stayed away from it for so long was because of fear. I was afraid. I was afraid of being treated like my friends in high school, and I didn't really want that type of treatment, so I held off. And then as I started to have sex, I think that sometimes I've had sex, for, I wouldn't say all the wrong reasons, but it was the connection, getting really liking somebody, dating them, and kind of getting into the groove of things and, taking things to the next level. I'm in a place right now where I don't really see myself having like random sex. So it's really more of a connection first, and then we'll see if we'll take it there.
Yeah, we're talking about intercourse because she just threw up dry humping. No, I'm saying she threw up dry humping. I mean, oral sex, things like I had sexual encounters, definitely outside of those 10 partners. So if you want to count those outside of those 10 partners, I had sexual encounters, but I haven't, had sexual intercourse.
You didn't have with Monica Lewinsky?
I didn't have sexual intercourse with more than 10 people. So the thing is, I realized that, I guess, I don't know if it happens with women, but I know with being a male, I don't care how cool I thought a person was. After I had sex with them, I always felt this emptiness if it was just somebody that I just wanted to have sex with or fool around. And it was just like, and I'm a raw person, so it's like I'm really distant, or it's like, yo, you gotta go, or get away from me type thing. So, and not to treat people poorly. Obviously, it was smarter for me to have sex with people that I actually cared about, wanted to cuddle with afterwards. The first time I had sex with a partner that was actually my girlfriend, you know what I mean? We cuddled, we sat down, and it felt like it was something real, a real connection. So I realized that sex should be utilized to connect, not to get off, not for a lustful thing. I mean, you could fool around, do all the lustful things, but I don't even, if I won't even fool around with somebody that I don't even consider somebody that can be my friend. So, they would have to be somebody that I can see in a long-term sense, even to fool around with them. You know what I mean? Because overall, it's important for me to feel like I'm not going to, I'm not feeling nasty towards them, or I'm not feeling empty towards them, because I'm very transparent and I'm going to say what I have to say afterwards. So most, it's work for me. Being connected to people that I've been intimate with at any point, it's actually work for me to build strong relationships. And if we then end up, being something, we actually ended up being friends. So it was great. So I think that's an important question, and to understand why you did what you did is very important as well, because, it allows a person to understand that you took accountability for your actions, and B, it's not going to hinder your sex lives based on, because it could be a traumatic thing.
Oh, yeah.
And if you didn't go get help for that traumatic situation, it's going to affect your relationship. It's going to affect your sex life. So at the end of the day, it's very important to understand why, you had those partners, or why you chose not to have certain partners. Because it's not just about having the partners. It's also, you had 2 partners. Why did you choose to only have 2 partners based on whatever circumstance that took place?
And I also think that the question also allows you to have the conversation about sex and the timing in which you should have sex, or what you believe you should have sex, and how you view sex. You know what I mean? Definitely. I think that it's easier to have sex than to get to know somebody, right? That's the reality of it. And we're the human part of us is that we have this physical attraction. We are still mammals, and we have this physical attraction to one another. Definitely. So it's easy to get caught up in that moment, especially if you are under the influence, or maybe you haven't had some in a while, whatever the case may be. Or you're making poor decisions. So it's really easy to connect in that way. But the question, is really important, because not only are you talking about the past, but it's that number says one thing, but knowing why, I think, would be that's the question. That's the answer I really want to know.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Because that number could be outrageous, but what was the reason why you did it? You know what I mean?
Definitely. And I think that you would understand the person's, they always say, leave the past, but we should learn from our past. Yes. So therefore, your past should follow you. The accountability comes from knowing why. Definitely. It should follow you. So I think that's a cop-out when I hear people say, leave the past in the past. No, I want to learn from the past. I mean, I want a person that can actually explain to me their past and why their past is their past and not their present or their future. You know what I mean? So if they give you a full scope, I think they're ready for a commitment. They're definitely ready for commitment, because they're ready to divulge all the information that they had in their past. They're ready to get through whatever they got to get through with you. And it shows that if you ever become their past, they're they're able to process it and move on and not resent you for it, things of that nature. And they're not going to be nasty. So I think it does show character as well, talking about your sex and being able to open up about sex. Because I had people, I had a lot of women that had more sex partners than I had. And, based on their reasoning, I got
was able to get past that.
Definitely. Yeah. And another thing is about, as a male with the male thing, it was the vanity walking past somebody and being like, yo, I at least know you slept with him. You know what I'm saying? Versus him giving me the look and I know, and I find out he slept with the person I'm with. You know what I'm saying? So it's also information is power. You know what I'm saying? It allows you to cope with it and then you understand what goes on. But really, a person could also fixate. And then it shows that y'all, the person is not for you because your number may be too high or maybe too low. Maybe they don't think you're sexually experienced enough.
Yeah.
So, and that's okay. So have that discussion as well. Go ahead, number 9.
Can you wake up daily and promise to be transparent? So, yeah, I think that's important because we tend to live in our heads and we have to remember that here you're speaking to yourself, you're not speaking to the person next to you.
Definitely.
So I think that's something that you definitely have to be conscious of. I think that's something that you have to truly believe in order for you to be transparent.
And I don't care how open of a person it is. Like I like to say that I'm a very open person, but there's times I just don't want to talk.
Yeah.
And I think that's all of us. But we signed on for a commitment. We signed on to be transparent. We signed on to have a discussion. We signed on to have somebody, to actually share thoughts with and actually express thoughts and keep them in the loop of what's going on in our heads and, and work through certain things with. So I don't care how much you don't want, you got to understand that when you sign on for a commitment, it's not about what you want. It's about what y'all need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Y'all always need each other to actually keep each other in the loop and actually express to each other. And I don't care if you're thinking about another woman or you're thinking about another man or, while you was having sex, you was thinking about work. Like you have to be honest with what's going on and you're not in the place to have sex possibly. And if the person still wants to have sex, they have to understand that may be the process of where you at. You know what I mean? And I think everything starts a dialogue and we can't just live in our egos and we can't keep sparing people's egos. You know what I mean? We have to have these discussions because overall, what is it about? It's about a long-term partnership and you want to be in a partnership. So us fantasizing and us having, quick, like looking at somebody and being attracted to somebody and, or being so indulged in work, we have to always have those discussions so we can remember what we signed on for. You know what I mean? And that's why it's important.
But it's a daily practice. And
Definitely.
I think that more people need to talk about it and decide what you want because it's okay if you don't want to be transparent. I think you need to own that. You know what I mean? And I think it's not okay.
It's the heartbeat. It's the heartbeat to the relationship.
When I say it's okay, meaning that own what you want. You know what
Definitely.
I mean? But it's not okay if you really want to have a healthy, stable, solid relationship.
Definitely. You can't just be I'm the quiet, shy type and I just don't talk. I just act.
Yeah,
but how would anybody know what you're gonna do if you don't honor a promise? You don't use words.
Well, you really can't hold that person accountable
for anything because they just
show up. You just know that they're gonna show up. They show up every time you need them to be there. They show up when, there's a party. They show up to certain events, but
they're quiet the whole time. So really, you know what I mean? When people say actions speak louder than words, I think we need to work. I think we need to start paying attention that we need two things. Like everything's a relationship. So actions and words make a healthy
relationship
interaction, period. You know what I'm saying? So like you have to understand that we don't have to choose one or the other. We always trying to figure out what's more important. No, we got both of them is important. Both of them have their part, the part they play in a relationship. So you have to understand that showing up means communicating with words and showing up with your actions.
Yeah.
It's both things because you can show up at an event and be on your computer all the time.
Yeah.
And be in your phone all the time and not be present. So it's not about that's the action. It doesn't you showed up, but you're not there. You're not present. So you have to understand that words and actions, transparency is important. So you verbally state what you want and you show up and you show what you want. So I think that's a very important question to ask to make sure that a person understands what they're signing up for. They're signing up to be one. two becoming one. And they need to understand that. So the number 10 is, if I'm not enough, would you promise to tell me? So now the reason why that's very important is because that's the hardest thing you can tell a person, that they're not enough for you anymore and it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we all fear. So a lot of our insecurities and a lot of things that happen in the middle is based on our fear of somebody abandoning us or us not being enough.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that the person would 100% tell you when they're ready to move on and when they're not interested anymore, you don't have to sit there all day and be fearful of it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to wait for them to silently just move on or walk out one day or pack their bags one day. You know that they're going to be transparent and they're going to let you know. So if they can let you know the hardest thing they would have to tell you, I think that the other discussions become easier. So I think that's the reason that's important. Important question.
It's important because a lot of times people, they go from wanting to be present to kind of tolerating you.
Definitely.
So I think, a lot of people become passive aggressive within the relationship.
Or they become comfortable. They go with the flow.
Or they passive aggressive and they don't really want to make the decision. So they're making they're pulling back. They're not really being who they were. So that you can make the decision.
Definitely.
So, it's really about, or they decide that things are not working out at home. So, they're connecting with somebody else and that friendship turns into something else because they don't necessarily have the courage to leave the person that they're with. And they're just creating something on the side to kind of be the buffer.
Definitely.
To stay
in
a bad situation.
Word. This question is about courage.
Yeah.
It's about being courageous enough to tell somebody the hardest thing you might have to tell them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if they're not enough anymore, if you're promising that I'll tell you, I think your relationship runs a lot smoother because if the person trusts that, they have to believe that and trust that you will tell them if they're not enough. So anytime that you feel that they're not enough, that would be the end of your relationship, wouldn't you say? So I think they don't have to worry about it constantly. Every time they're not getting a text message, every time somebody's not picking up the phone, every time. And I mean, that can start a discussion.
No, but it goes beyond that. I think the umbrella to this is honesty.
Definitely.
I think that if you believe in honesty and the person that you with believes in honesty,
but it's bigger than honesty. It's a faith. It is an honesty to it. It is an honesty to it.
Like if we're
honesty could just be I'm telling you it.
No, but like
not giving you all the other information.
But
so
I want to
give you. In it.
Oh yes, but I also want to give you choice. Like for instance, if we just because by the time we get to here where I'm not enough, I would hope that we have had other conversations. Right?
Oh, definitely.
So it would be like say you and I are having sex and the sex is not good and on my part, right? Mm-hmm. Say that the sex is not good. So
yeah, definitely on your part. Definitely on your part. Okay.
The would you have the courage to tell me that instead of jerking off in the bathroom when we're done? You're gonna make sure like, hey, when you ride me kind of hard, maybe you need to, whatever the case may be, like you'll have that conversation. Or my breath smells, or my hair doesn't look good in this style, or, those things. Like, I think that if you're around somebody who is honest throughout your relationship, definitely. Then when it comes down to that part, I think that they would be as honest because a lot of people even have a hard time doing those things.
But I think honesty is just letting a person know what you think. So I always say honesty is attached to trust. It's attached to dedication, is attached to devotion. Because we could all be honest. We could be honest and then walk away. So honesty is just stating what it is. Are you willing to sit there and really find the truth with the person? So I think that's where the important thing is the core value. So I think that's telling a person that I'm not in love with you anymore. So it's bigger than that. You lost faith in the ability to coexist. So it's bigger than honesty. You lost faith in your ability to coexist. So it starts off with honesty, the discussion. But then the closure comes in. It's like, I love you enough to give you closure, though. So you're now making that statement and you're now telling them that they're not enough, but you're giving them reasons why, you're giving them where you're at, you're giving them where you're moving on and why you chose that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the way a person visualizes it. If this ever was to end, it's going to end in a way where a person is not going to just walk out and leave me stranded. A person is going to actually care for me even and show me love even on the way out. So I think in knowing that,
because it's a responsibility.
Definitely. So you know that you're with somebody that is mature enough to give you that, so you never have to worry about every time you're messing up or every time you're going through stuff. Because I've dated a lot of women that thought every time I like commented about something, like I'm leaving them. Like, and I would tell them, if you keep being insecure, I'm going to leave you. Yeah, it's going to push me away. So me saying that is not saying the same thing as that. You're not enough. It's saying you continue to do this, then I gotta walk away because you don't see yourself as enough, and therefore I'm not. But they hear what they want to hear. But I'm telling them, I'll be honest. You're not doing me no favors. I'm telling you this to strengthen our relationship so we can have dialogue. I'm not telling you this to tell you you're not enough. I'm telling you this because you're enough, and I want to make sure that we stay in that way, that place. So it's important to know that the person, if I didn't want to be with you, I'm going to tell you I don't want to be with you and explain to you why I don't want to be with you. So I have a responsibility to you, even on the exit interview, to actually have the discussion. So it started out with our interview in the beginning, question number 1, and it moved down to 10, where it may actually end. That's what everybody's scared of. But if you have an understanding even in the end, I think it now allows the whole relationship to flow a lot better. And it has an understanding. It's more, like you feel more secure in your relationship, and, you believe in your relationship more. The relationship becomes more of a faith, and, you dedicated to it. So I think that it's important to, ask these questions. You can probably still, if you're actually in a relationship, you can go over these questions to make sure that
you guys are aligned.
Yeah, and you're on the same page, and and y'all can get, maybe y'all can get back into a better space if y'all not in a good place. So I think, I think our builder for reaching out to us and basically giving us the idea to not only do a podcast, but actually have a different, a source or a reference for people to come to our website and actually, take this quiz or take these questions and see if, ask themselves the questions and, be prepared to ask somebody else their question they're trying to, connect with or they already connected with.
Yeah, I think that it's really important to own what you're getting yourself into and have the other person do the same. And even if you guys don't end up together, at least you guys know what you bring to the table, what you believe in, and that can be the foundation for you to connect with whoever you need to connect with, who is like-minded and same-hearted.
Definitely. So, and to add, if they don't want to take the quiz or they don't want to read the questions and go over the questions together, then that might be a red flag. I mean, maybe that might be an understanding as well. So, if you believe in asking the questions and these things the questions make sense to you, then, find somebody that they make sense to too and start.